All right, everyone, welcome. We are on day 9, so let's get to it. So let's remind ourselves, greatest common factor. So when we're looking at factoring patterns, we're looking to see how can we solve these. So we have greatest common factor, we have grouping, we have the hard trinomials, which means that we have the ax squared, and then we have the easy trinomials when it's just x squared or y squared and then there's nothing in front of them. So day 9 is looking at the patterns and seeing what are we going to do to get things accomplished. Okay, so now we're going to be looking at the difference of perfect squares. So a perfect square is something that goes in to a square root evenly. So we're talking 2 times 2 is 4. 4 would be a perfect square. So we're going to rock out day 9. Please go to your Unit 10 notes, and we are going to be doing 9 and 10 after your test. All right, so that's what we're working on today. So let's remind ourselves, multiplying the following binomials. So we have x plus 4 and x minus 4. All right, so we are going to do FOIL. So if you guys notice, there's a plus 4 and a minus 4. So the middle 2 terms go away. So this is called a difference of 2 squares. Difference meaning subtraction, and the middle 2 terms go away. So what do we have left? X squared minus 16. Ta-da! Difference. Here we go. So again, we're looking at patterns and seeing if this can help us do things a little bit faster. You can consider day 9 like a shortcut day. Ta-da! Okay, and 16 is a perfect square. Why? 4 times 4 is 16. All right, so now let's do the next one. So the next one, we're going to be 2y plus 5 means that it's squared. And again, you have to FOIL. So we have 4y squared plus 10y plus 10y plus 25. If you notice, they're both plus in this situation, okay? So they're both plus in this situation. So what does that mean? If they're both plus, that doesn't mean the middle goes away. We actually add the middle. So 10 plus 10 is 20. And then again, 5 times 5 is 25. So we have 4y squared plus 20y plus 25. So this is not a difference of 2 squares like the first one. The first one has a plus or minus. This one, they both are exactly the same, so you will get a trinomial. But if you notice, 4 is a perfect square, and so is 25. 2 times 2 is 4, and 5 times 5 is 25. Okay, so looking at these patterns and rocking them out. So now let's try the next one. What do we notice? Okay, well, I have a minus and a plus. What does that mean? That the middle 2 terms are going to go away. So write this down, and you might want to make a note on the side about it's a difference of 2 squares because, again, they're the same factors, right? We have 3a and 7, but one is a minus and one is a plus. So looking at those different patterns and rocking it out. Ta-da! All the arrows, all the underlining, all the things. Okay, so now let's write down notes. I see a lot of students not filling out this box. This will be really beneficial for you when we're reviewing for your final. So please write down the information on the top. This is really important, okay? So difference of perfect squares, again, means that it's a times a, b times b, and one's a plus and one's a minus, okay? Now for a squared plus 2a plus b squared, what does that mean? That everything is a plus. You have a plus b times a plus b. Okay, the middle doesn't go away. You multiply it together. Now what's the difference between this one and the next one? Well, there's a minus in the front of negative 2ab. So that means that these are both negative. Well, why is it positive b squared? Well, two negatives make a positive. Okay, so these are the different formulas that you will be using. All right, so let's look at number 4. Well, what does this mean when we're factoring? There's a difference of two squares. So the square root of z squared is z and z. What's the square root of 81? That's 9. Because it's a difference of two squares, one's going to be a plus and one's going to be a minus. Ta-da! You're done. So we don't have to do X method. We don't have to go through that whole song and dance if we notice the pattern. Again, number 5, we have, and we can FOIL it back out and get back to the original. If you are like, ooh, I don't know if I did this right, this is what you can do. Try number 5. Again, it is a difference of two squares. Look, it's a binomial. There's two terms. Well, what is the square root of 4? What two numbers go into 4? Okay. And then we can look at 16 n squared. Well, what two numbers go into 16? Again, we need the same number. So you can square root it or think about, well, what goes into 4? I think it's 2 and 2. Oh, we can even make it easier. All right, so what we notice is that we can take out a greatest common factor and make this even easier for ourselves. They both have a 4 in common. Okay, 4 divided by 4 is 1. 16 divided by 4 is 4. Okay, so make sure we understand that. We took out a 4, greatest common factor, and then this is what we have left over. And what we notice is, well, 1, how do I get 1? I think that's 1 times 1. And then how do I get 4? That's 4. 2 times 2 gives me 4. What about this negative in between? Just like number 4, this negative in between means that there's a plus and a minus. And there we go. So we have a plus 2n and a minus 2n. Okay, but what if I put a minus here and a plus here? It means the same thing, guys. So please look to see if there's any greatest common factor before you go from there. All right, for number 6, I have an a squared and a b squared. So you know that you're going to have an a and a b. Okay, so an a and a b. Here we go. And then I have to look what goes into 25. Well, that's a 5. Now, how on earth do I get this minus, guys? Again, 1 is plus and 1 is minus. All right, this one. Now, if you notice, 80 and 45, I don't have two numbers that are the same that goes into 80. The same with 45. So let's think about this. I can take out a greatest common factor, meaning they have a number in common. What number do they both have in common that I can take out? I can take out a 5, guys. And let's see what's left over. There we go. So 80 divided by 5 is 16, and 45 divided by 5 is negative 9. All right, from here, most of you would say, okay, I'm done. But wait, there's more. Again, this factoring pattern. What two numbers go into 16 that are the same? 4 and 4. What two numbers go into 9? 3 and 3. Okay, so that's what you got to think about when you're solving these. Okay, so then 16 is 4 and 4. 9 is 3 and 3. 1 is a plus and 1 is a minus. So first take out the greatest common factor and then look for those patterns. All right, for this next set, I want you guys to try these out and check back and see how you do. All right, A you should have got x plus 10 and x minus 10. B, C plus 3D and C minus 3D. Remember, if you have two variables, make sure they both are in there. This one, what? There's a plus in between, guys. I can't do anything. There's nothing that they have in common. And there's a plus. Remember, it's the difference of two squares. So C, can't do anything about it. And then the final one, oh, there's a plus and a minus. And D got cut off. Sorry, guys. So it would be 4x plus 3 and 4x minus 3. So make sure you're writing that for D. All right, moving right along. to the next set. Oh, okay, well, these are trinomials. All of these are trinomials, so it's not the difference of two squares. We're going to be looking at different patterns. So think about the X method and how we solve it. So 49 and 14. 49's on top, 14's on the bottom. If you notice, they're both going to be positive 7. Okay, so that would be our answer. X plus 7 times X plus 7. They're the same sign. Why? Because there is a middle term. Okay, the middle term does not go away. And you could also, and then now let's try the next one. So what goes into, oh, look, it's a hard trinomial, guys. So 9 times 1 is 9, and then negative 6 on the bottom. If you notice, it's negative 3 and negative 3. Okay, what we usually would have to do is regroup. Okay, look, and then the 9 and the 1, and then you bring in the factors. So in these special factors, okay, using the factoring pattern, notice that you're going to get the same number for these terms. Okay, then we're going to split it up because now we have 4 terms, and we will group and find the greatest common factor. And if you notice, they're going to be exactly the same. 3y minus 1. 3y minus 1. And look, we have 2 of them. So then we have 2 of them. Therefore, I can write 3y minus 1 squared. So going from here to here when solving. So again, looking at these patterns to see if we can make the process go a little bit faster with the shortcut. All right. For E, try this one out. If it goes into 4, what goes into 4 and what multiplies to 4 and what adds to negative 4? Well, that would be negative 2, and there's 2 of them. Okay, for number 5, take out the greatest common factor, which would be 5. Then you notice, what do you have left over? R squared plus 4R plus 4. Well, what multiplies to 4 and what adds to 4? That would be 2. So this would be your final answer. So if you notice if there's something in common with the 3 terms, take it out and then see if things get a little bit easier on the inside. All right, excellent. Okay, when it comes to solving, what do we need to do first? We need to make these equal to 0. That's the first thing you should think about when it says something like solving. So if it's 64, subtract 64 to both sides. And this is what we have. So I notice I have a difference of 2 squares. I notice that what 2 numbers go into 16? 4 and 4. And I have 2 numbers that go into 64, 8 and 8. But before I do that, can I take something out? So you got to think about those things when you're solving. Try to come up with a plan, okay? Don't start just putting things together. See, okay, can I take something out? Well, la-ti-da. They both have a 16. That made this way easier. Taking something out and making it much easier for ourselves, all right? So what goes into... All right, let's factor the inside. So I have p squared minus 4. Okay, and I'm going to find the factors. Now the 16 can just go away. Do you guys notice that there's nothing attached to 16? So you can divide that to both sides. You're like, what? Yeah, so ask questions in class if that's very confusing to you. Okay, so let's talk it out. First, I brought the 64 over. Okay, now it's equal to 0. Now what do? I can take a 16 out because they both have things in common. Take the 16 out. All right. Now I notice, okay, so 16 does not have a variable attached. So 16 times p squared minus 4, that means I can divide 16 to both sides. All right. Now, what do I have left? P squared minus 4 equals 0. This is a difference of 2 squares. There's a minus in between. P squared and 4. Well, p squared is p times p, and 4 is 2 times 2. All right, so we can factor that and then solve. So I have a p plus 2 and a p minus 2 equals 0. Make them both equal to 0. And there I go. I have the answers of p equals negative 2 and p equals 4. So when something equals 0, make each factor equal to 0 and then solve. So that was a pretty hardcore question. Now, G, let's think about this, okay? If you notice, they don't have anything in common, but they have a difference of 2 squares, okay? I have a b squared and a 121, and we want to see if it's a difference of 2 squares. Well, b is b times b. Well, what's 121? So you can find the square root of 121 and find out that's 11, okay? So 11 and 11. Well, because it's a minus, there's a plus and a minus. From here, we're not done because it equals 0. So now what are we going to do? We're going to make them both equal to 0 and then solve. What's the opposite of adding 11? Subtracting. What is the opposite of subtracting? Adding. So then my answers are b equals negative 11 and b equals 11. Okay? All right. One more. Let's see what's going on for this one. Woo! Okay? There we go. Plus or minus 11. All right, last one, guys. So what we need to think about. So we have a trinomial. Okay? So again, it's not the difference of 2 squares. 2 squares means that you have 2 terms. Do we have anything in common with the 3 of them? I don't see anything I can take out. So now I'm going to do the x method. What multiplies to 16 and adds to negative 8? Well, that's negative 4 and negative 4. Okay? Again, it equals 0. So first, let's write down the factors. And there we go. So the factors are x minus 4 and x minus 4 twice. What? Here we go. So if I make that equal to 0, I'm going to add 4 to both sides, and that means that x just equals 4. Usually we have 2 answers when we're solving, but that we do have 2 answers. They're just the same number. Okay? All right, so I want you guys to be looking at day 9 homework and look to see what patterns you see. Do we have 2 terms? Do we have 3 terms? Is there something we can take out before we start solving? So when I'm looking at 17, 18, 19, and 20, I want to make sure that they equal 0 before I get started. Okay? If I see a subtraction sign, I want to see if these are perfect squares. Now, if you have questions about perfect squares, please ask your teachers in class. All right? Have a great day. Peace.